Well, business and consumer bankruptcies, this is something that unfortunately we've seen a pretty big jump in over the past year. And the numbers are actually quite startling. We're seeing business insolvencies go up by quite a bit. We're seeing business insolvencies go up by 41%. And I looked down because I just didn't want to make a mistake on that number since 2022. So from 2022 to 2023, 41% increase in business insolvencies. And it's startling. That is the largest increase in 3 decades. We haven't seen a number like this in a long, long time. And it's interesting. Some of the reasons for that businesses have mentioned in these surveys are, higher input costs. They're seeing a rise in costs of running their business. Wage costs are going up. We've seen wage inflation. Recently, we've seen wages kind of level off in Canada and the United States. But prior to that, wages were going up at a pretty good rate. And last but not least, and probably the biggest change that we've seen in the last few years is basically debt servicing costs. The cost to service debt for a business has gone up quite a bit. And that is your higher interest rates, right? You borrow money to build out a business, you borrow money to invest, perhaps buy a new business or add on. You want to buy equipment or whatever you're borrowing for. These costs are obviously rising as interest rates have gone up significantly. And so we've seen a lot of business insolvencies. Now, consumer insolvencies, those too have gone up by 23% from 2022 to 2023. That is a 14-year high. So even the consumer is finding it more difficult. Things are rising, costs are rising, and things are for most consumers been a little bit more difficult. Inflation, really overall, we've seen consumers continuously talk about mortgage rates and mortgage interest. So those that have a mortgage, those individuals are finding things a lot more difficult than those that are fortunate enough not to have a mortgage on their house. And we know a mortgage for an individual is probably the highest or the largest debt that someone will take on. One of the startling stats I looked up just this morning, and I was talking about this to some of the individuals that help work with me on this show, prepare the show for you every 2 weeks. We were talking about how much in debt the average Canadian is. And once upon a time, we saw that the average Canadian, for every dollar they made, they were in debt about $1.50. And then it jumped to $1.60. Well, as of today, the latest stat I saw, for every dollar that the average Canadian makes, they are borrowing $1.85. So this is a number we have not seen. I can remember seeing a number that has continuously gone higher. And, with interest rates moving higher, this is a very difficult thing. And we all wonder how long it's going to take before the consumer really stops the spending. And that is something that, I've talked to, professionals about, experts in the field of insolvencies, what they've said, and they've told me that they're already seeing cracks in the spend. And we have a few charts here that I wanted to highlight. The first one, insolvencies in Canada. You can see here on the far right-hand side, 2023, how much insolvencies have gone up in 2023. So you've seen a jump there. The household debt by country, we talked about the $1.85 per dollar of income. Next chart we have here shows how indebted the average household is in our country. And you can see Canada is not the worst, but we're definitely well down towards the highest indebted country out of the OECD countries in the world today. And I think something that the average person needs to work on, because we're seeing more and more insolvencies. And if interest rates are to continue to stay elevated, they may come down a little bit over the next year, maybe 2-3 rate cuts, but we're still not going to see, in my opinion, where interest rates were, maybe 5 years ago. So something to be mindful of, something to consider, and I guess, again, some perhaps alarming stats on business and consumer insolvencies.